What's good, Royalty Squad? I'm your host, Prince Yaps, and we're here with another Reddit video. And man, have they gotten scarier. If you do enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe as well, as it helps the channel a ton, and join the royal family. But also, let me know what other type of scary stories you guys want me to read, and also if you just want me to read regular stories as well. But without further ado, let's begin. For the first story we're going to be reading, it'll be called I Think My Boyfriend is a Skinwalker. I started noticing the switch up with him around 2 months ago. To give a really short background, I'm 27 years old, and my boyfriend is a 28-year-old male. We've been dating for about almost 2 years now. The relationship has been nothing short of great so far, and we've talked about proposing and getting married soon, as well as having kids. But about 2 months ago, something changed. It started when he decided to go camping in New Mexico to do some stargazing and wilderness hiking. I was initially against this idea as I wasn't confident in my navigational and survival skills, and I was afraid that something bad might happen. My boyfriend was kind of a jerk and told me it was just my anxiety talking and I shouldn't give in to my womanly hysterics, whatever the hell that meant, and that he was sure we would have a great time. So the trip date comes around and I begrudgingly make preparations to go. As we took the long drive out there, I actually became more excited about it, and my nerves slowly faded away as I began to take in the surrounding desert scenery with curiosity. We used a light pollution map tracker to find most of the remote locations we could and found a path off a set of dirt tracks to get to a general location we liked. Of course, we did not book anything or make reservations at any official camping sites, but my boyfriend insisted this would save us money and hassle, and most of all, the official campgrounds are full of people and noise, and we wouldn't get the maximum nighttime experience, as he put it. I found this a little strange, but this was my boyfriend, so I trusted him nonetheless. Our car is not an off-rider or Jeep, but a typical sedan. He fitted with off-road tires, so we had to be extra careful not to get stuck or lost anywhere, as we had no cell reception. The little care he seemed to have during all this was honestly off-putting, but I had no reason to suspect anything unusual. Anyways, we got a nice open spot in the desert. There were a few butte formations in the distance and some mountains on the horizon. The soil was mostly sandy and rocky, with scraggly knee-high bushes and weeds surrounding us. We pitched a tent and he went about setting up his telescope equipment while I prepared us something to eat. The trip itself lasted 2 days and 2 nights, and nothing out of the ordinary happened until on the second and final night. After we finished stargazing around 1 a.m., we went to sleep in our tent. Sometime later, I woke to what I thought was a yowl or scream. I wasn't sure what it was at first, but then it happened again, and this time I was fully conscious. I went to wake my boyfriend up, but he was already gone. I sat up terrified, thinking maybe something had happened to him. All of a sudden, the tent zipper began to slowly open from the top to bottom. Froze, afraid, afraid to move. Then quickly, my boyfriend's head came in, then the rest of his body. I breathed a sigh of relief. I asked him where the hell he went. He said he went to take a leak, and I asked about the scream. He shrugged and said it was probably a bobcat or something. Then I saw blood on his leg. As I got closer to take a look with the lantern, I caught a whiff of him. He smelled horrible, like a mix of iron and piss with something else I couldn't identify. What? Oh, that? I must have cut myself on a thorny bush, he said too nonchalantly. Is that why you screamed? I asked. He gave me a puzzled look and said he didn't know what I was talking about and I should just get some rest. The way his eyes shifted when he said this, it was almost like they were glassy, the way the light reflected off of them. It gave me the creeps. I asked if it was okay if I could sleep in the car for the rest of the night. He looked annoyed for some reason, but didn't protest. I woke up to the sun already out. My sleep curled in the back of a sedan was uncomfortable to say the least, but at least I felt safer with the doors locked and outside in the tent. My boyfriend was already sitting out on a lawn chair drinking a beer. Despite it being early morning, he had sunglasses over his eyes. I questioned why wasn't he packing our things. He just gave me a dull look until I asked him if we still planned on leaving today. At which point, he made some sort of exclamation and tossed his half drunk beer in. Woo, man. Sheesh. I hate struggling, man. I am stuttering like a whore. At which point, he made some sort of exclamation and tossed his half drunk beer can into the bush. I stood there with my mouth agape. My boyfriend never litters. Like, ever. As a matter of fact, he occasionally talks about how much he hates people who do litter and that they are the worst people. I shockingly asked him if he seriously planned on leaving that there and how I thought he hated littering. He just went, right, and picked it up and moved on like it was nothing. When we left, it was like my boyfriend was behind the wheel for the first time. He was swerving and jerking the pedals for a while before we got a stable course and got out into the highway. I asked him what he was doing, and he said something about the road being rough or whatnot. On the highway, our car hit a huge coyote. Our car's exterior and front were badly damaged, and we were both banged up a bit, but I was mostly okay. I said we should call the hospital, but my boyfriend gave me a wide eyed look of terror, like I've never seen him have, and firmly insisted that he was okay to drive and begged me not to call any authorities. He promised to get a checkup at home if he was still hurting. I was still dazed from the situation, so I just agreed and brushed it off. I wish, I wish I had done something then. Maybe something could have turned out differently. At home, he claims to have gone to the urgent care, where they diagnosed him with some bruises and a cracked rib and gave him some painkillers. The weird thing is, I didn't see any paperwork, invoices come in the mail, or any receipt or in our bank account for any medical expenses or evaluations, which I found really suspicious. I asked him about this, and he just tried to shrug it off and said not to worry about it, and that he threw away the doctor reports. How convenient. These weird occurrences kept on happening all throughout the week. It would honestly be too much to list them all. Many of them were so subtle that honestly, someone who had known him very well would barely even notice these changes. But I did. For example, my boyfriend's never stayed up late, but now it seems like he's barely getting sleep at night. At night, I wake up and just see him sitting on his side of the bed, staring at seemingly nothing. Other times I've woken up to him staring at me, not like looking or admiring, but in pondering or examining sort of way like a predator does with its prey. One time I walked in the bathroom to see my boyfriend pulling at his skin. One night, holy shit, holy shit. One time I walked into the bathroom to see my boyfriend pulling at his skin on his neck. He looked pale, and I could see his neck vertebrae shifting under his skin in an almost unnatural way. Speaking of the bathroom, my boyfriend's hygiene seems to be getting worse and worse. He always smells, and his skin always seems slimy or oily or something. And like there's a globbits of dead, dark gray skin on his neck, shoulders, back, etc. Like the kind you get if you don't scrub your whole skin for a while. And the dead skin's just building up and just building up layer after layer that then scratches to a clump if you scrape your fingernails over it. I confronted him about all this, hoping he would clean himself up more, and he just gave excuses like he works at construction job. In the summer heat is making him sweat more and yada yada. I tried brushing it off that he's been stressed lately and hasn't had the energy to get the grime off, but it just keeps getting worse. At this point, I started telling him to sleep on the couch because I'm starting to get scared. His hair seems to be falling out more rapidly and has never looked worse and more unkempt like a wild dog's. He stopped being so kind and gentle. It's like he's forgotten the cute words we use for referring to each other. Almost like he was replaced by someone who didn't have any memories of our past relations. In general, he's becoming more and more antisocial. I never see him go out with his friends anymore. In turn, I've tried to get out of the apartment more as I'm honestly nervous to be alone with him. He talks very little, mostly with grunts and almost choppy English, like a parrot or a crow trying to speak. This might be the worst one. It pains me to even write this. He forgot about our anniversary, our 2-year anniversary. I was expecting him to propose to me as he had been hinting at for months prior, and this was most likely the day he would choose, but he just didn't remember, like at all. I was waiting for the surprise all evening when he said he was going to sleep. I burst into tears and asked him if he had forgotten, which he had replied, "What?" Confirming he did in fact forget. I left to stay with a friend the rest of the night. I took off work the next day as I took off of work the next day as a sick day, as I just felt awful. All of this has been so stressful on me. It has taken a toll. In the evening, he came in with tulips and a gift card. He knows I'm allergic to tulips. At that moment, I felt so terrified. Who the hell was this in my house? This couldn't be my boyfriend. I just knew something was very, very wrong with him. If that's the case, where is my real boyfriend? This is where I began to suspect something more was going on. This is where I began to suspect something more was going on than just relationship problems. I searched up counseling. I searched up couple counselors online and listed off a few things I've experienced with my boyfriend in Google. After scrolling for a while, I came across a Reddit story talking about skinwalkers. The name piqued my interest, and I began to dig, reading stories and comments for hours about their behaviors, nature, etc. With every post and new piece of information, the puzzle began to click in my mind, and I began to grow increasingly sick. The next few days, I scoured the internet for more information on skinwalkers and similar doppelganger entities. Surely they couldn't be real, however, right? I really wanted to believe it was all just in my head, but I just couldn't keep disregarding the increasingly bizarre behavior. I started keeping tabs on his daily routine, his habit changes, incident, the things he said into a diary, down to the littlest things, like how I caught him writing with his right hand. Before he was sort of ambidextrous, but he always preferred to write with his left hand. That's when dead animals began to show up. At first, it was the carcass of a dead squirrel outside the door. It looked mangled and bloodied. I thought maybe the neighbor's cat dragged it up and had my boyfriend clean it up, who did so reluctantly. I found a dead rat in the kitchen trash can, also mangled like the squirrel, but it looked to be partially consumed. I didn't even bother asking my boyfriend for an explanation. I was just afraid I might trigger him to attack me before I could defend myself. Then, a few days later, another rat on the porch. I went to the duplex neighbor to complain in case it was their cat. They apologized and said they'll keep an eye on their cat more closely, but I couldn't help but suspect my boyfriend at this point. Then it was the cat. The neighbor's cat was lying in front of our porch. When I got up to check the mail one morning, it appeared to be gutted and all of its entrails were scattered about the concrete steps. A few crows were pecking at its flesh, meaning it had been there all night. My boyfriend had left the bed early in the night to take a leak, as he said plainly, but was gone for at least 20 minutes. I gagged and ran back inside crying. What kind of sick person does that? I just knew it had to be my boyfriend. No, not my boyfriend. Whatever the hell was wearing my boyfriend's skin. The neighbors called the cops, who told her it was a known group of troubled kids down the block pulling a prank, and asked if they would like to press charges. I don't even think the cops believed themselves, to be honest. My neighbors were also suspicious. She asked why the cat would be gutted in front of my half porch and how it's not the first time a dead animal has shown up on the porch. The cops did question us, but they couldn't prove anything, and I couldn't tell them I couldn't tell them that I suspected my boyfriend of being a skinwalker. What would they think? They would think I'm crazy. I'm the crazy person and assume I've been killing all the animals and leaving them on the porch. After the police incident, the dead animals stopped showing up on my porch. My friends began getting concerned over me. They said I looked like a mess and asked what was going on. I just told them relationship problems and that I wasn't interested in talking about it. I think I've barely slept in days. I'm constantly crying and stressed out, wondering where my loving boyfriend went and what the hell this thing wearing his skin is. Sometimes at night, I hear what I think is rapping or scratching at the window. Too terrified to look. I'm terrified that a skinwalker's gonna kill me and take my identity. I'm terrified my boyfriend's gonna kill me. This all came to a head last night. The evening was the same as the previous few. I got home from work, ate a snack. He got home from his job. The bedroom to cower and scroll through social media. He went to the living room to do who knows what. I feel exhausted, emotionally and physically. And around 11 p.m., I turned the light off to cry myself to sleep. Maybe 30 minutes later, I'm jolted awake at the door slowly creaking open and he enters my room. He hasn't done this in over a month. I know tonight's the night. But I'm not prepared for what happens next. It's totally naked, almost hunched over, climbs into the bed on top of me. I freeze from panic, not sure what to do, just trying to hold my breath and hope he doesn't do anything. That's when it grabs me by the shoulder and I scream. I punch it in the throat and it throws it off me. I punch it in the throat and it throws it off me? Oh, I punch it in the throat and throw it off me. It's not me, y'all. Okay, I usually don't do this. I'm not going to do this for a lot unless it's the first time, but golly, the grammar in this one has been really, really bad. Woo! Woo! It falls to the floor and it makes a sickening wheezing sound like of that of an angry elk. I quickly use that moment to pull the knife out of my desk drawer I've kept for this moment and I aim at it. It stood up and his face went pale. The skinwalker's shifty, beaded eyes look at me like a quartered animal with nowhere to go. I don't remember exactly what was exchanged next. It all happened so fast. I remember it pleading with me, begging me to remember, saying it was my boyfriend, that it wasn't trying to kill me. It was just wanted to have intimacy with me. It said I was crazy and that I was making a big mistake. But it was too late. It had already blown its cover, and there was nothing it could do to convince me otherwise. My boyfriend was gone, and this thing was going to pay for what it did to him. I lunged, stabbed. I don't remember how many times. There was so much blood. It squirmed, fought back. It was strong, but it eventually gave out. I remember gutting it like it had done to the neighbor's cat. It would pay for what it did. I remember cutting its skin off in a flap, off its body, attached to the muscles underneath. I dug around in his organs and under his skin, expecting to see something underneath. But there was nothing. There was just him. It was just his normal body. I took a step back as the adrenaline finally wore off, and I vomited. I had just killed my boyfriend. It was just my hysterics all along. There was no skinwalker. He didn't get replaced. It was him. My boyfriend the whole time. I actually killed my boyfriend. I thought my boyfriend was a skinwalker. Okay. Wow. I generally don't know how to react to that one. That's actually very terrifying. So I kind of figured at the end, like some way to like almost toward it, I'm like, because our friends like, you're looking kind of crazy. I'm like, no, he's just a bad boyfriend. No, And like the way she was even explaining him, like even when he was trying to attack her, I'm like, I don't think he's trying to attack you. I think he was just trying to get intimacy. That is crazy. That is actually crazy. That's a W story. That's a W story. I can't lie. On to the next. I told my wife I'd pick her in every life. She said I already have, and she makes sure I do each time. She was a prankster, and so I assumed she was just being silly. Yeah, why wouldn't you? I'm a great husband, I said, laughing off the joke. I'm not joking. Actually, usually I like to wait until you're close to the end until to tell you, but you'll be gone soon enough. I told you to schedule that doctor's appointment. Yeah, okay, Vera, whatever you say. I was barely unsettled. She was a weird girl, part of why I liked her. As I started to walk to the bathroom, she grabbed me by the wrist. Sam, I'm not joking. Okay, I'll bite. What are you talking about? I've known you for probably 2,000 years. And most of us pick a person from one lifetime and then switch it up. But you, Sam, you have been so profoundly depressed in each life. It's like I hit the jackpot. The best thing is when you have plenty of hope, only for it to be destroyed. I was really looking forward for this time, but you were stupid and waited for the doctor's appointment. You only had a few weeks anyway, but now I'm going to miss out on the hope of being crushed once again. But now I'm going to miss out on the hope being crushed once the doctor realizes there's nothing they can do. She didn't laugh. She didn't smirk. She was dead-eyed. You're not going to scare me into going to a stupid doctor's appointment. I'm 33. I don't have cancer. You foolish humans will do anything to convince yourselves you're immortal. Even the greatest minds on your planet don't live longer than 120 years or so. What do you think that is? Don't you think that after all these years of human evolution, you would have figured this out by now? Don't you think it's strange so many other life forms that are so much less advanced don't experience this? Censuses? Biological immortality? The reptiles have figured it out, but they're a dumbed down version here. Horrified at the mental break my beloved wife was experiencing, I asked her to go to the emergency room with me so she could be checked out. She agreed if I told them I had stomach issues and got myself checked. Fine, she was nervous about my results, and this was her insane way of trying to get me to go to the doctors before my next physical. I went to the hospital with her. She was released after a few hours. I'm now on palliative care. I'm 33 years old, and I have stage 4 colon cancer. Vera, how did you know? Know what? Vera said indifferently. Her husband of 2 years had a month left, and she didn't seem like she cared at all. In fact, she seemed perturbed by how long it was taking. About my cancer? What is wrong with you? Honey, I already told you. You're never going to understand this, and I've even taken a liking to you. I don't love you, obviously, but I do love the sustenance you provide. That's why I pick you every time. I always make sure you get a better deal than the other prisoners. I do a lot for you that you don't even understand. You know, the first time I met you, you were a slave in Rome in 26 BCE, or whatever you call it. I had just started out there and had to find my own food, and for some reason, I picked you. I was foolish then. I didn't request for you to be with me again. I had no powers anyway, but I also just assumed all slaves at the time experienced the same feeling. Vera, you sound crazy. Yes, and you're ignorant. You humans don't even see or care what you do to animals with your industrial farms. At least we let you walk around and live a life. It's not my fault that you never believe me. But I don't care. I'll wait another 16-20 years and I'll be back, feeding off your energy. What I like about you though is your naivety. You don't ever believe me, and I've told you the truth each time for hundreds of years. I'm definitely one of the lucky ones. She said it with a sick smile on her face, clearly uncaring of how this is affecting me. I'm not crazy, so I assumed she was still pulling some weird prank or was going through an episode of psychosis that hadn't been picked up. I decided to play along. Alright, Vera, let's say this stupid thing is true. Why would I ever believe something so asinine? Hmm. Well, I've done this before, and you typically die right after. But I do kind of want to speed up this process since I'm getting hungry. Humans think we all feed off the whole earth. That would be nice, but that's not a luxury of my species has. It's very much eat or be eaten with us. Before I could say a word, she continued. Think of the known universe to you humans as the United States. The Milky Way is essentially several miles in Detroit, one of the worst places you could find yourself. Well, me and my species are here for at least the next 10,000 years until we gain enough energy to move on. The the Enneagram media is essentially Gary, India. There aren't nice neighborhoods for hundreds of thousands of light years. See, in this part of the universe that you know, you essentially live in a prison. You deserve to be here, so I can't feel bad. Who knows what you did? All I know is you provide a supreme amount of low vibrational energy. Unfortunately for my species, is very much still second-class citizens. Racism spans the cosmos, believe it or not. Anyways, that's why you and every human being on Earth are here, and you idiots choose to go into the light. Even after I tell you all this, I can guarantee you still will because you've already done it hundreds of times. I've been your best friend, I've been your daughter, I've been your husband, I've been your father, I've been your wife, I've been your uncle, your favorite uncle. Each time you listened to me, and I went into the light like a moth to a flame. I would feel worse if you eventually figured it out, but you haven't, and so I continue to feed. Mouth gaped. I didn't have a word to speak. I still assumed she was having a mental breakdown, but the lore she created was perplexing. Before I could respond, she stopped me with a single wave of her finger, and she did something unimaginable. Right before me, in my literal deathbed, she transformed. It wasn't as showy as you'd think. While I have trouble remembering all of it, I need to write this down. She became a being of pure light, vaguely reptilian, a bright skin, almost radioactive, about 7, 8 feet tall. At the same moment, time seemed to stop. No beaming of the machines keeping me comfortable. No cable TV playing in the background, nothing. Her eyes weren't eyes, they were voids. Voids of darkness that I would make the vans of black paint look white. It was the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. I could barely hear or understand her when she transformed back to a human. I will never forget what I saw. After that, she left. I started to code. A plethora of doctors and nurses rushed in asking for a cart to crash or something. And then suddenly, I was in total darkness. Not even close to the darkness of their eyes, but dark beyond anything I'd seen on Earth. I saw a distant light, and Vera was there to guide me. Okay, Sam, it's time for you to go. Go into the light. I stopped and thought a moment. Then I told her my decision. I'm not going, Vera, or whoever you are. She muttered something frustratingly in a language I didn't understand, and I could tell she was transforming into a horrific form again. Suddenly, I woke up in my hospital bed. I asked the doctor where my wife was, and he said she hadn't come to visit me yet, still in the psych unit downstairs. Anything I saw real? Is any of this real? I want to believe it's all in my head. The chemo's acting up. Anything to blame mental fallacies before accepting what she said. That's why I had to post this. The longer I think of it, the more I think it was a dream brought to me. The longer I think of it, the more I think it was a dream brought on by my fear of death. The only thing that terrifies me is when the nurse came in to change my ice chips. Looks like you spit up or something in your cup. Did you eat any snakes lately? She said with a lighthearted laugh. No, why? Well, I'm from Georgia, so it's not uncommon. I'm just never seen a snake shed its skin in such a public place up here in New Hampshire. As she pointed the cup towards me, I gasped because I know there are no bright green snakes in New Hampshire. Okay, that was crazy. That is insane. Holy crap. Holy crap. Imagine this. You were living, he was only married to her for 2 years, which is crazy. But imagine this. You're married to your wife, to your partner for literal years, getting to know them, living a long life. Out of nowhere, they're like, man, You were just supposed to, if you just went to the doctors earlier. What are you talking about? You're gonna, oh, you do this every time. I know you're gonna choose me in the next life. And you think they're being cute, but no, they're a different species. And they are literally using you to feed off your energy. That is evil. Oh my God. And you would never know because you're going to keep getting reincarnated, which, by the way, I do believe in reincarnation. So, but that's crazy because you're just going to keep going and going and going through the same cycle. That's insane. That's actually insane. Actually insane. Holy crap. Holy crap. My date killed his mother. I may have been next. Reading back over this, the lore I have for this guy is so crazy that it seems fake, but I have screenshots of some of the text he sent me. Please look up the title of the news story named below for authenticity of this crime. Back in 2021, I'm a female. I moved to the Central Texas, about an hour and a half outside of Austin. Being a new adult with a new sense of adventure in a new state after a sheltered childhood, I hopped on dating apps pretty regularly to meet and chat with all sorts of people. Admittedly, at the time, I didn't have very good standards for who I swiped right on. LOL. One day I swiped right on this guy who had swiped right on this guy who had maybe 3 pictures, all kind of blurry, and didn't really show his face too well. Like I said, I really didn't have the best judgment. He was a year or 2 older than me. We matched, chatted for a bit, and agreed to meet later that week at a park in Austin. He didn't look anything like I expected. I mean, what could I possibly been expecting? I hardly seen his face. Meaning he wasn't really usually my type. His head was shaved. All the pictures of his profile were him with longer hair. He wore boring clothes. He was pretty unsubstantial, if I'm being honest. It was a long drive, so I just decided to pull all my thoughts aside and entertain the date. We walked around the pond at the park, chatting about our interests and normal small talks you do on a date. The thing is, he seemed really smart and aware to me. I was mostly into fiction books, but he was into political theory, racial history, and injustice. Of course, any guy could say they read such smarty pants theory to try to win some points with a girl, but he legitimately had page numbers and excerpts from these books committed to memory. I'd never met someone like that. I was super intrigued. We discussed the book Women, Race, and Class. He rattled off some points from it. I'd never read it before and scribbled down the book recommendation in my notes. I remember later finishing on that book in a week and having something of a book club with him. Wink, wink. Our date goes on and goes well. All things considered, I found out he doesn't have a car, but he says he's just going to take the bus back home. I offer to drop him off back at his house. He's a little hesitant, but accepts and asks if I want to check out his place. I accept. Dumb. He lived in these motel-style apartments. Think the hotel from the Florida Project, but blue. I grew up under the poverty line. I've seen much worse and didn't really think anything of it. He brought me up to his apartment, unlocked the door, and invited me in. It was gross in there. Despite having one bedroom and his bare mattress Despite having one bedroom, his bare mattress was in the corner of the living room on the floor, across it from a small unplugged TV on top of a black milk crate with a PlayStation next to it. A small die table next to the bed, functioning as both a desk and a nightstand. That was it. Nothing else on the walls, no furniture. I asked if he recently moved in. He says he did about 4 or 5 months ago. I asked why his bed is in the living room. Why not your bedroom? He stutters out a response. The neighborhood is bad. If someone breaks in, I don't want them sneaking up on me. I shrugged. He offers me a cup of water, and I follow him into the kitchen to be nosy and look around through the cabinets and fridge. The only things in his cabinets are cans of mixed beans and bags of rice. On his fridge is a few bottles of Jumex and leftover rice. I comment on his shitty bachelor-style eating habits and ask to use the restroom before I go. His bathroom is even worse. A sink covered in old rusted razor and facial hair. Mold and mildew covered shower walls, curtain, and tub. As I hovered over his toilet to pee, I could smell his towel across from me on the towel bar, reeking of mildew. Ew. As I walk, I'm sorry, I read it else. That was disgusting, bro. Hey, man. Okay. Let me finish this sentence. No, actually, okay. Let's read through the whole story. I won't do that. My fault, y'all. My fault. As I wash my hands, a roach skitters across the sink. I am utterly repulsed, and any romantic interest I once had in this man is now obliterated. Despite washing my hands, I don't feel clean in this apartment. After leaving the bathroom, I thank him for his time and leave. Now, here's where I will take some responsibility and say, I made a mistake by not leaving it there. I knew I was not interested in the slightest romancely to this dude based on his living environment. But I have to admit, I really enjoyed picking his brain on things. He was generally interesting to listen to and talk to about theory, hence why I read the books he recommended and discussed them with him. Looking back, that would definitely be something a girl would do if she wanted to pursue something further. I was not smart about that stuff. We would text and call and such over a month and have a so, with things being truly platonic on my side. I just really wanted to talk about books and catch up. One day he texted me in a panic and asked me to see me, worried about him. I tried to call and figure out what was going on. His voice is different. It sounds strained and tired. He asked for me to come to his apartment that what he needs to talk about can't be talked about on the phone. I'm annoyed being that it's an hour-long drive from my house to his apartment. He begs and pleads with me to come. So, begrudgingly, I hop in my car and head to Austin. By the time I park in front of his apartment building, he's already outside pacing back and forth. He hops in the passenger of my car. I finally get a good look. His eyes are bloodshot red, wide, and looked like he hadn't slept in days. He gave me a long, strong hug and starts rattling on about nothing in particular. I stop him and ask, dude, why am I here? What's going on? He paused and brings his voice down to a whisper. I want to tell you everything, but first, you need to turn your phone to airplane mode and open your glove box and leave it in the car. Don't ever do that. What the hell? What? I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm cutting it. This story is insane, bro. And we're not even close to it being done. So, oh my goodness. No. First of all, if she's so dumb, I'm not going to lie, talking about, I can't tell you this in person. Why? My first question is this illegal? I go, hey, I'm suburban. This can't be talked about on the phone. Is this illegal? What did you do? What's going on? And depending on what you did, hang up. Yeah, I'm not snitching, but hey, I'm not part of that. Hey, I'm not part of that. I don't know what happened. I don't know you. I have no idea who you are, buddy. Before this point, I have never really had a reason to fear for my safety around this guy. He didn't seem like the type of guy to do something dangerous. But as soon as he said that, I felt a pit grow in my stomach. Eager to just get this settled, I do what he asked, but request to go on a walk around the neighborhood and talk, as the building was right next to an extremely busy street, and I wanted to be around people just in case something went wrong. We go for a slow walk around. He lets me in on his problem. He's been surveying people, surveying him, and he's sure of it. Big black Escalades with pitch black windows stalking his apartment. His job, everywhere he goes, he's being gang stalked. Confused, I asked who he thought was following him. The rap industry, he says. Those people want me dead. What I didn't mention about this guy is that he loved to write raps. He had his little notebook he kept with him at all times full of little ciphers. I didn't mention this fact because his raps honestly suck. LOL. They were terrible and pseudo-intellectual. I never said this out loud because I don't want to hinder any person's creative expression. Another point to make is this dude never posted any of his stuff online, anywhere. He kept all his stuff to himself or would show it to people immediately around him, but never publicized them anywhere as far as I knew. So who, if anyone, cared enough about his one sorry Italian dude's rap locked away in a notebook? The answer is no one. I knew. The answer is no one. And I knew that. At that moment, I realized I was stuck with an individual having a mental health episode, and I was completely alone. He rattled on about how he was saying the things they were scared saying the things they were too scared to expose, and that what I'm writing is going to change the world. They want me to, they want to kill me for it. And I want to tell you to keep you safe so you can decide if you want to be involved or not. As I took all of it in, I guided him over a basketball court with a few picnic tables next to his apartment, and sit down. When I finally get a moment of silence to think, I leveled with him. I told him that I was inequipped to handle this. He needed to seek some help, and that I was leaving. He yelled and screamed and cried after me, saying I was the only one he trusted, but I was so scared that I ignored his cries, hustled back to my car, and sped away. I didn't talk to him for months after that. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't scared of him, but I was scared for him. I had no idea what to do. I just knew I couldn't do anything for him. Months later, I moved to Houston for college. I had my first apartment to myself and was feeling amazing. Bored one random day, I was looking for the names of some people I had previously dated, mainly being nosy again and wanting to see if any of them had gotten into any trouble. I finally get around to looking up this guy, and up pops a link for his LinkedIn. I clicked and browsed, but don't see I clicked and browsed, but don't really see anything interesting, so I move on. The next day, I get a notification of a DM on LinkedIn. It's from him. I had no idea that LinkedIn notifies you when you looks at your profile, but in this case, it let him know that I was snooping. He sent a little sly message, something like, "Gotcha peeking." I apologize for being nosy, and we exchanged some small talk. Later on, I get it on message on my phone, actual text from him asking if it's okay to text me. We catch up. I let him know I moved and stuff, and then I ask how he's been up to and if he's doing better. Boy, the whiplash I got when I found out what this dude had gone through in the months we hadn't spoke. He told me that a couple weeks after I stopped talking to him, he was in a bad way. By the time he had gotten his car, which had been left at his mother's house in Lubbock, Texas, back and had relapsed with a drinking problem that I didn't know he had. One day he hopped into his car after drinking in excess, got on the freeway, and was driving his car upward of 80 miles per hour. He says he blacked out at some point and then woke up to his car crashed into a bridge support beam and his legs trapped under the dash. His car was absolutely obliterated. He wasn't in good shape in the slightest either. I can't remember which side of it happened on, but he told me that he had everything from his thigh down amputated. In a matter of months of not talking to this guy, he lost a foot. After the accident, he moved back to Lubbock to live with his mom. I remember crying, instantly coming to the conclusion that it was my fault that it happened. I mean, I had communication with him right before. He said I was the closest friend he had, and I left him. I felt so terrible. I apologized to him, though realistically, I knew I had nothing to do with it. He rejected my apology, insisting it was all his fault, obviously, and that he was doing much better since. I couldn't shake the feeling of guilt, though. Later, I bring up that I'm going to a Denzel Curry show coming up in a few weeks. He mentioned that since his injury, he hadn't felt comfortable leaving the house much and hadn't been to the concert in some time. He really enjoyed Denzel's music, though. If you find yourself in Houston at some point, you should come with me. Conveniently, he mentioned he had another friend in Houston that he'd been wanting to go see. It was decided. He bought a ticket days after the flight from Lubbock to Houston. Still feeling like he was some sort of sad puppy that had brutally wounded, I offered to let him sleep on my couch. He planned to only be there for 2-3 days. I guess I just wanted to allow him the opportunity to get out the house and experience something different. Weeks later, once he actually arrives in Houston, I find myself sobbing when I pick him up at the airport. He really was missing a leg. I couldn't believe it. Staring at his prosthetic leg was such a mind-altering experience for me. I'd really wished that was some messed up reason he'd lie about it. When we arrived at my place, I realized him staying in my apartment felt easier said than done. I lived in an apartment of 5 stairs. Each time he needed to get in or out, I had to give him a shoulder support to make it up downstairs, but we get it done. We finally make it inside. He takes his shoe off and settles on the couch. I sit on the floor parallel to him, ask if I can see his leg. He pops the prosthetic off and I start sobbing again. I'm sorry, you're so annoying. Jesus. Oh my God, you're insufferable a little bit. I can't lie. Okay, here we go. The days that he stays with me, for the most part, go smoothly. We go to the Denzel show one day. He had a good time, and while I'm working on a college assignments, he goes to visit his friend. Then he decides to stay for a couple more days, which I don't mind. He decides to turn 3 days into 6 days. When he's at my house, he helps me with my classwork and accompanies me on errands, it's not too bad. One day we're sitting in my living room watching TV or something. While I'm working on assignment, I feel him staring at me and ask, "What? What the heck? Oh my God." With a huge smile, he says, "What would stop me from getting you pregnant? Staying here with you forever." Man, when I say my heart dropped to my feet, I mean it. I started laughing awkwardly as if to say, "Yeah, okay, anyway." But from the moment he said it in my mind, he became a threat. I wasn't too worried though. This man is in my house. I have some big advantages despite him being taller than me. There have been numerous instances that we could meet easily, accidentally knocking him over and sending him to the floor. I knew if worse comes to worse and blow comes to blow, I could send him flying down my flight of stairs, as awful as that sound. Thankfully, his stay was coming to an end. Expected by me, insisted that he needed to go home after he hinted that maybe he could stay a couple days longer. I can't remember if I gave him grace of bringing him to the airport or making him get an Uber, but soon he was gone and I never saw him in person again. I whittled down contact with him, but he would still send me text messages like, "Miss you," and "I want to come back. Do you want me to come back?" He loved getting into stupid little arguments. One day he texted me a link to J. Cole's music video, asking my opinion on it. The storyline was the Django adjacent. I just responded, "Pretty cool." And that sent him down a tirade against me, preaching that the video was sexualizing and downplaying racism and slavery, that I should be ashamed of myself for thinking the video was okay. He even called me racist. Me, a mixed race black woman, was surprised to learn such a fact about myself from this Italian man. Mixed race? Like, yeah, I knew she was a suck. I'll play. I ended the conversation, told him he was being frankly quite effing ridiculous, and demanded for the final time that he not contact me anymore. I was tired of this. This dude was weird, intense, and high-key predatory. He fired off every insult in the book, saying how he'd kick my ass for being a fake woke racist. Now that he knew where I lived, I didn't block his number in case I wanted to file a restraining order and wanted to collect evidence. But I wish I had blocked him. From that day on forth, he relentlessly sent me messages every single day, nearly every hour. When it finally got to a point where I had to collect enough evidence against him, I blocked him. I never pursued the restraining order because I wasn't intimidated by him. I had in my mind that even if he wanted to come back, he more than likely couldn't. Well, yeah, a year or two goes by after that, one failed long-term relationship with another guy later. I ended up moving to a new state to be closer to family. It's probably 2 a.m. or something. I'm up doing my nosy thing and looking up for people again. I look up this guy yet again, though this time his LinkedIn wasn't the first thing to pop up. Luckbach man indicted, accused of stabbing and killing mother. The link reads, it was posted 2 months before I moved to my new state. His mugshot attached to the link. I click it and I can hear my heart in my ears as I read. He had stabbed and killed his mother outside on her lawn in the middle of the day. He dragged the body to the back of the house and sprayed her corpse down with a hose. Once the police arrived, somehow he was able to run away, but they soon caught him. The news caught his arrest on camera. You could see him sitting on the sidewalk, shirtless next to the police cruiser. I sat in my bedroom in absolute shock. His mother was a loved member of the community. She was a child psychologist, crazily enough. Memories of her calling his phone while I was around him started flooding me. Him telling me how awful of a mother she was, but so loved. No one knows who she really is. Yet after reading all of the comments from the community, people who truly knew and loved her, I knew that wasn't true. I remember nearly passing out. Never in a million years would I have ever thought that he would do that to her. I can't believe that he was in my home while I slept, feet away from my kitchen, all those knives. I kept a baseball bat at my bedroom door for protection. Could he have come in and bashed me with it if he really wanted to? May she rest in peace. Such a horrifying end to her story. He's still in prison now. He's been moved all over due to overcrowding. I look him up every so often, but there isn't any updates on his case of recent. The last I saw, his bail was $500,000. I'm scared what he'll do if he ever gets out. God forbid. He needs mental help, but he really needs to stay in there. No, I'm in danger as he's freed. Wow. That's a crazy story. And let me tell you something. This just shows you have to be very careful and just be aware of your surroundings, no matter what's going on. Because that's crazy. That is very crazy. And I do have a story where I did go to a woman's house. Oh my God, place was dirty as hell. So nasty. Nasty, nasty. Can't do it. But no, even one. So this one dude, he was actually doing my hair. He was gonna do my hair and whatnot. He was gonna get right, you know. I'm like, okay, bet he do my hair, you know what I mean? Cheap prices, W. Brother. I go inside, it smells like shit. I'm like, ew, gross. I go upstairs. I shit you not, there's cat feces behind the door, the bathroom door. When you walk in the bathroom, there's like cockroaches, like just. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Listen, let's just be a lesson. This story. If something feels wrong, don't do it for real. And especially this, like there are so many signs for her to avoid this type of person because he was showing all the signs of someone who was mentally unwell. He was showing all the signs. He was definitely unwell. He did not know boundaries. For one, when he said the line, "What would you do right now if I got you pregnant and stayed here forever?" No, don't. We don't want you. No. Let's not do that. Let's absolutely not do that. Nowhere near. Let's never do that. That is some sickening thing. I can't even lie. That is truly sickening. Yeah, that was crazy. That was actually crazy. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel so bad for the mom. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. But without further ado, y'all, thank you so much for getting to this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe as well. It helps the channel a ton. Join the royal family, y'all. And I'm out. Peace, y'all.